Good afternoon, Ellis County. Kevin Crouch with Ellis County Weather here. Talk about being caught unprepared. I was bringing groceries in for my family, and also, once again, the beginning of the stream does not have the sponsorship information for our two new sponsors. In fact, my screen doesn't even want to agree with me now. For the sponsorships for Eclipse Professionals and Southbound Tattoo, make sure you check them out as well. But on the top of this, we have this severe thunderstorm warning that has been issued for parts of Ellis County here. This outflow boundary that is very evident here. You can see this thing moving all the way from Forest Hill and Mansfield down to Midlothian, on up into Oakleaf and Red Oak, up to Lancaster. This very thick outflow boundary with this very strong, at this point now, severe storm that has been issued and is going to continue to move on to the southeast. This warning was issued primarily for strong winds, wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour. Looks like hail up to a quarter of an inch is possible with this. And so as this continues to move on to the southeast, there could be large hail associated with this, could be damaging winds. And obviously we've had more rain recently, so we're not as concerned with the rain issues. In fact, I got to move something around here. Like I said, caught completely unprepared for this, but this storm has been raging across Dallas County. If we put this into motion here, you know what? I'm sorry, folks. I love my office chair, but man, that thing gets in the way no matter where it sits. Let me put this into motion here, and you can see this thing continuing to move off to the southeast. And I was in Cedar Hill, or Duncanville rather, a short time ago, and as this thing continues to move on to the southwest, and, of course, this is not really the direction you normally expect to see things move. So as it moves into the southwest portions of Dallas County, northwestern portions of Ellis County, and I apologize, I think I messed up directions. It's moving to the southwest, just to make that abundantly clear. As you can see on the radar, it is moving to the southwest. So as this continues to push through, this outflow boundary is going to very likely, especially as defined as it is, it's going to continue to kick up new convection, most likely. So even if this storm here tends to weaken, I would not put it past this outflow boundary to kick up some new convection on the way. Let's take a look at the warning itself, and that does run until 6:30. So until 6:30 today. So this will go on for about another 45 minutes or so. It looks like it's a pretty quick moving storm. Let me pull it up one more time. We had some timing there, and this is moving at, it says 20 miles per hour. But, man, it looks like that is moving quicker than that. And part of that may be that it's kind of building farther southwest as it goes. And so if we put a track on this, let me see if I can get a track built here as this continues on. And we'll actually put this beyond the actual point there. So in Midlothian in the next about 20 minutes, Mountain Peak in the next, that says 31 minutes. I really think it's moving faster than 20 miles per hour. So I would say Midlothian the next 15 minutes, Mountain Peak the next 20 minutes, Venus probably 20-25 minutes or so, and so on and so forth. So what you're going to get first, though, is ahead of this, obviously, is this outflow boundary. That could bring very gusty winds as well. It's a fairly well-defined outflow boundary, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's gusty winds, maybe a few drops of rain coming out of that at this point too. And as that continues to move on to the southeast, we'll have to watch and see if this storm is going to maintain its strength or continue possibly a kind of an evolution, possibly weakening. A lot of times these storms, we're still kind of in a summer atmosphere here. It's meteorological fall now, but we're still kind of in a summer atmosphere where this storm could be building up very quickly, and then it could very well just as quickly lose that intensity. Let's take a look at any of the hail cores here. Looks like the biggest hail core right now is going to be just right there on the Ellis County border. So 67, Highway 67 is right here. So it looks like this is where we're going to see most of that hail. And if we kind of zoom in on this, this is south of Cedar Hill. And so this gray area really is going to be where we're going to see most of that. Again, here's 67 right here. So if we zoom further out, this is really the only storm in the area right now. There's not a whole lot aside from this going on. One shower up there right around Love Field, and then one just to the east of Ferris there. So not much happening, but if we put this into motion again, you can see the large outflow boundary put out by this cluster of storms. And there's kind of a couple of storms that are kind of working together there, but it's been doing quite a bit of noise making up in Dallas for the last several minutes here. We were in Costco of all places, and we walked outside. I saw the storm to my north, and it didn't look like it was moving much. It was kind of just sitting there. But I walked in the door here, was immediately alerted of the warning, ran in here and got ready to broadcast. So very quickly intensifying situation here. I do not expect to see any kind of tornadic activity. So I know that there are folks out there who immediately upon seeing a storm immediately want to know, is there a tornado threat? There's no tornado threat with this storm, but you do see some of these brighter greens. And so I do think we will probably see some stronger winds associated with this. And as we've talked about before, sometimes you'll have winds that go down and out in all directions. And that's the core of the storm dropping, right? Now, that usually means the storm's going to weaken as well. Right now, we're in a strengthening cycle. But if we see these winds continue to increase, and especially if there's a very fast increase in winds, that's when we'll start to see the big changes, the winds spreading out in all directions, very strong winds associated with the storm, followed by usually a fairly rapid weakening process. So if you're jumping in, just jumping in, I know that some folks are just jumping in, here's the storm we're looking at. So this is the warning that is for primarily northwestern Ellis County, okay? So if you're in other parts of the county, I know some folks are talking Italy, Abilene, not really looking there. In fact, if we look at kind of the bottom of this polygon, just grazes part of Waxahachie, barely makes it into Maypearl, barely makes it into Alvarado. This is the area in the severe thunderstorm warning right now. So this storm is going to continue to push through, and it is moving to the southwest. So it will continue on, could cross 287 here, continue on further south, moving towards, like I say, Alvarado, Venus, Maypearl area. Midlothian is under the gun for this. Midlothian, you're in between the outflow boundary, which again is very well defined here, and then the storm, which is here to the north in the Cedar Hill area. Cedar Hill stretching over to DeSoto right now. When you get this outflow boundary, there will likely be strong winds, and there could be a little bit of kind of light rain associated with that as well. But right behind that is this storm. If we put this in motion again, you can see that it's pushing southward. Officially, the warning says 20 miles per hour. It looks to me like it could be moving a little faster than that. But here's the problem. If it's not moving that quickly, but it is dropping a lot of rain, we could still see some flooding issues from this. In fact, if we look at Cedar Hill's been getting heavy rain for a few of these frames. And so I would not be surprised if we start to see some issues with flooding from this storm itself. And as we continue to monitor this, I am curious to see how this other cell kind of acts with this. Now we have an update here. So if you're in northern Midlothian right now, let's kind of go in a little bit. If you're in northern Midlothian, right here at 67, right about the county line, this is where this is where we're looking at the highest chance, like I say, for hail. Let's check that one more time. And right now it's showing that it's showing a little north of this. Now this may be an old radar scan just a moment ago. So it actually looks like that hail core may have cycled down just a little bit. So we'll continue to monitor that and just kind of watch what happens. Gusts to 55 miles per hour reported out. Dallas Executive, that's just right up 67 here. So again, those 55 to 60 mile per hour winds are possible with that. I know we're getting a lot of new people just jumping in, so let's do another kind of broad view. And I know there's going to be always people jumping in at all points. I can't always stop and just start anew every time. But here's where the storm is right now. So just moving, the heaviest of this, moving just south of Cedar Hill, moving towards Midlothian right now, towards Mountain Peak and Ward there, towards Venus there, and then moving towards the Maypearl area. I don't expect Waxahachie to really be affected by the storm. Now, the outflow boundary is what you may see. So if you do see very strong winds, that doesn't necessarily mean you're getting the storm itself. You could very well be getting the outflow boundary that is going to continue to push to the south of this. And if we actually look kind of in other parts of the county, so it's the outflow boundaries just pushed through Red Oak right now. I'm sure you're hearing some of the noise from that nearby storm. Red Oak may get grazed by some of this. Ovilla and Oak Leaf, you're going to get grazed by part of this as well. But if you're in Wilmer, you're getting that outflow boundary right now. Lancaster just moved through there. Moving towards Ferris, towards Pecan Hill, possibly towards Palmer here as well. And Rocket and Waxahachie here just off screen will likely see this outflow boundary move through as well. But the main show, again, is this area right here. And I do think that this is where we're looking at the majority of the heavier precipitation that we're going to see out of this. So here again, I still think this might be kind of an old representation here, because the heaviest of the precipitation does look like it has moved south of the county line. But if this is any indication, it looks like the hail core may have reduced in intensity just a little bit. And so we could be dealing with, a kind of a shrinking of intensity here of this storm. And I will also say, we're not looking at a big severe weather threat across Ellis County or across North Texas right now. We are looking at primarily, and in fact, I'm just now seeing that Jimmy Porter's not up there as well. Talk about unprepared today. Okay, here's this new update, and it does look like our hail threat, for the most part, is not as intense at this point. So the hail threat appears to be minimizing some, but we are seeing very strong winds still possible, and really that's the main impetus for the warning that was issued here, and that severe thunderstorm warning does go until, in fact, I should throw this up there too. I'm just kind of preparing on the fly, right? The severe thunderstorm warning will continue through 6:30 p.m., and that's about half an hour from now. So not going to last all night, and there really are not any other storms at this point from this area. This was a cluster over Dallas. It wasn't moving much, and then an outflow boundary was ejected out of that storm. That's what's moving to the south. If we go back to the traditional view that we see here, that's what we're going to see. Don't worry about this little tail here. Again, not expecting a tornado threat out of this. I think that's just kind of a weird shape out of the storm. But as we see this very, very heavy rain, we may be losing the hail core, but we could very well still be looking at a very strong wind threat. Winds of 50 to 60, possibly in some cases 65 miles per hour from this storm. And then again, of course, here's this outflow boundary that's just moving through the Mountain Peak area, going to continue on to the south, moving through Mountain Peak, Sardis, and Red Oak here, actually moving into Pecan Hill now. And that will continue on to that part of it, the southeast. Really, it's moving due south, but it's kind of just going out in all directions. And remember what we talked about, where the downdraft, that core of that storm dropping out, the winds hit the ground and go out in all directions. Kind of like when you pour water out of a bucket. It just hits the ground and goes out. So that's what we're seeing here, and that's why it's kind of in a circular motion, right? That outflow boundary is just going out and around. Something interesting to check here is the echo tops, and we will watch this, we'll loop this, and as you can see, we're losing some of the reds and the orange and that kind of thing. So the echo tops, the storm is getting lower generally, so that means that we're losing the density and the height of the storm, which does seem to suggest that it is in a weakening trend. It's 6 o'clock right now. We could very well see this severe thunderstorm warning canceled early if it does continue to show this weakening trend. And we'll check the winds as well. Still seeing some fairly decent winds out of this, and probably the strongest winds are going to be right here just north of Midlothian, where the strongest part of that storm is. But if we loop this, we'll probably see, once again, you see the strongest winds peaking right here just west of Cedar Hill, but continuing on to the south and weakening there. So in general, it looks like this storm is weakening, and got a lot of folks in Ennis asking about that area, Ennis, Bardwell, Palmer, that area. This storm is not headed that direction. This is all the way in Midlothian, going to stay in northwestern Ellis County, moving into the western parts of the county there, but not expected to hit the I-45 corridor there. So this is the storm that we've been watching, and it does appear to be weakening at this time. The first thing that's going to hit areas, again, it's moving through Venus right now. It's going to be moving towards Maypearl. You're seeing this, I'm sure, to your north and wondering what in the blazes is going on. You have an outflow boundary that's going to hit first. That will bring possibly some light, right? Wouldn't say heavy rain, light rain, and strong winds with it. Gusty winds will definitely arrive, and then the storm will be behind it if it can make it there. We are seeing weakening in this storm at this time. And this is, again, I mentioned this at the top of the broadcast, we're still kind of in a summer atmosphere here. We have that daytime heating that can cause these storms to blow up very quickly, but then they kind of die out pretty quickly sometimes too. They peak, but that peak only lasts so long. So what we're seeing is that this outflow boundary is a representation of those winds that went down and out of the storm. So those winds increased, that pushed some of that hail downward, right? So the storm peaked very briefly, and then we're now in a weakening cycle with this storm. So it's still going to bring plenty of heavy rain, as it is now bringing in Midlothian and Ward area. Again, the Mountain Peak area soon, moving towards the Maypearl area. But this severe thunderstorm warning could very well be canceled early. I think it probably will be. I doubt this storm is hitting severe limits at this point, unless they're talking about these clouds here. And I'm sure it looks very, very intimidating there in Venus and in Griffith right now, in Mountain Peak. I'm sure it looks very, very scary. But the good news is we're not looking at tornadic weather. We're not looking at serious weather out of this. It's enough you want to come inside. Obviously, nobody wants to be struck by lightning or caught by flash flood winds or flash flood rains or anything. But it's enough to go inside, but we're not looking at the kind of weather you need to get into your storm shelter for. This is going to bring heavy rain, and it's not moving that quickly. It's been a little bit deceiving. The warning said this thing was moving about 20 miles per hour, and it looks a little faster than that to me. But at the same time, it's not moving fast enough to get those rains out of your area quickly enough to where you don't have to also worry about some flooding in those flood-prone areas. So there's still a flooding concern alongside this as well as it continues to move in. And again, this outflow boundary is what you're going to see first, but even that appears to be losing some of that definition. You can see right in here, it's starting to kind of segment a little bit and lose some of that very tight definition. As this storm continues to move off to the southwest, it's going to continue weakening. At least that's the indication that we have right now. So it's weakening. It's losing some of that punch that it had a short time ago. I think this is one of those storms that increases very quickly, and then as soon as it does, it kind of does its thing for a few minutes and then starts to weaken. And a lot of the time, by the time you get the warning issued, the actual severe weather lasts a short time, and then you end up having these things canceled fairly quickly. And I'm watching the National Weather Service, just kind of the discussion on that. And they don't have a report from Midway Airport right now, but hopefully they're going to have that here pretty soon. And I'm seeing, that there's a possible thunder in Waxahachie right now. Yeah, so here's the thing. This storm is going to look ominous. It's going to look terrifying from a distance. But the good news is that this storm really is not quite as intense as it looks. Plenty of heavy rain, plenty of lightning, plenty of gusty winds in this. But since it is losing its intensity, we're not going to see, the kind of severe weather that we expect a lot of these storms that are warned. As I mentioned several times, I expect this warning to be canceled early. I really do. We're about 6:06 right now. I'm not seeing anything new from the National Weather Service at this time, but we have been watching a weakening trend with this. Okay, let's see. I've got a message here. Okay, I'm not sure what that means, but I'm monitoring the chat because, of course, as this goes through, you're recording your experiences there, and that can sometimes kind of help me understand exactly what's happening. So I'm not really seeing. I'm hearing there's some power glitches here, and that doesn't surprise me too much because a lot of these rural areas, especially in the rural areas and even in some of the urban areas, your power lines are above ground. When those winds come in, it's going to kind of mess things around, right? It's going to jostle things around. Not surprising if you have a few kind of light flashes there or whatever the case might be. Okay. So yeah, a lot of conversation right now about just seeing thunder, seeing lightning, hearing thunder, those kinds of things. We'll zoom in to this thing once again, and the primary victim right now is Midlothian. I can tell you that Matt, the moderator, right now is pretty. He's getting, if he's not getting rain yet, he's going to get a pretty good dousing here very shortly. And so this area, there is plenty of heavy rain. I'm not thinking we're looking at any hail in this, though. We can check one more time here, but I do think that we're past the hail issue here. Yeah, so the strongest winds are here between 287 and 67 west of Midlothian. So, you have the Love's gas station out this way and in that area. So I think this is the area you have the heaviest rain right now. There might be some very small pea-sized hail coming down in this, and I think from there, we might be, we may not be seeing the kind of conditions that prompted the warning to begin with. So we'll take this, and the other thing I'll note here, pretty far outside of the actual storm. Let's actually go back to. So it's gone now, but we did have a little lightning strike indicated here. So that's just a reminder that you don't have to be under the storm itself, or at least getting rain, to get lightning strikes. So that's why I mentioned it's good to be inside when the storm is going through, but you don't really need to be, you don't need to be dealing with, getting in the bathroom or the closet or the storm shelter or anything like that. We're not looking at that kind of weather today. So we still have, just kind of checking my bearings here, we do still have the severe thunderstorm warning that's in effect for about another 20 minutes, unless they cancel that early, which is very, I think, likely at this point, unless they're still getting reports of those winds of 58 miles per hour and over. So the severe thunderstorm warning continues until 6:30 p.m. Again, that's radar-indicated winds of 60 miles per hour. 58 miles per hour is your threshold. So just above that is kind of where this storm is. But, we're just above that, and the storm has been weakening. So all odds are we're probably out of the woods as far as the severe weather is concerned, but the warning is still in effect. So the National Weather Service has not seen cause to cancel this yet, but I do think this will continue to weaken as it moves off to the southwest. That's my thinking. Anything can happen here. These summer-style storms pretty much do whatever they want, regardless of what seems to make sense at the time. So if you're in Venus, if you're in Maypearl, if you're in northwestern parts of Waxahachie, I would be prepared for this storm to continue on to the southwest. And right now, I think the biggest concern that I have is going to be the heavy rain that could bring some flooding concerns if this storm kind of hangs out. And again, the area bringing the heaviest rain seems to be kind of, contracting here. So we're looking at the heaviest rain right around Ward right now, heading towards Griffith and Auburn, that area. So as that continues to drop south, we could be looking at some urban street flooding, flash flooding in flood-prone areas as this goes through. We've had plenty of rain, so the ground is saturated at this point, kind of the opposite problem we had about 3 weeks ago, where, it was going to, the ground wasn't going to absorb anything. Now the ground may not absorb as much because it's so saturated already with all the rains that we've been getting. Make sure I catch up to the chat here. Okay. So if we do kind of another wide zoom here, you'll see that this is really the only thing happening right now across the area. There was a quick shower right in the Love Field area. Nothing really happened there. We have one south of Frisco there, just a small shower, but this is really the main show with, again, the remainder of that severe thunderstorm warning ongoing in northwestern parts of Ellis County, as well as eastern Johnson County. I hadn't mentioned Johnson County yet, but that storm will start moving towards that direction of eastern Johnson County pretty shortly. But you have this outflow boundary that's quite sizable that came out of that cluster of storms when it kind of hit its peak, and that of course is what prompted the warning for our part of the area in southwestern Dallas County and now northwestern Ellis County, northeastern Johnson County. So we'll kind of zoom in on this. This is the storm we've been tracking. And if you're new to the stream, this storm did prompt a severe thunderstorm warning that is in effect until 6:30, so about another 15 minutes now. We were seeing a pretty decent hail core in this. We were looking for looking at strong winds in this, winds up to 60 miles per hour, maybe a little bit more. At this point, though, it continues to weaken, continues to show that it's less organized. So as this thing continues to move off to the southwest, all indications at this time are that it will continue to weaken. Okay, I'm hearing from the National Weather Service, reading about this storm. Okay, so reading that the current plan is to continue to let this severe thunderstorm warning run its course until 6:30. However, there is a weakening trend that has lasted several scans here, and they could be issuing another special weather statement or two further to the south, mainly for these outflow winds. At this point, I think the strongest winds are going to be along the outflow. I think the storm itself has calmed down enough that this is where we're going to really see the strongest winds, probably around the Alvarado area right now, as this continues to move on through northeastern, or really just eastern Johnson County and western Ellis County here. And as you can see, this, like I said, this part of the outflow boundary is kind of losing some of its definition. But this storm is going to continue to move to the south to affect Venus and Mountain View here, onto a Mountain Peak rather, and then on to the south a little bit further. So asking for to zoom out here. So here's where we're looking. It's going to move it's going to pretty much stay to the east of Mansfield here. Don't expect Mansfield to be affected. Britain, you're kind of getting grazed by it there. Lillian, you've got a little bit of a cell developing there. If that continues to intensify, which there we see it looks like it might. So far northeastern Johnson County here, right around the Lillian area, you may have a new storm developing there. But this storm has really lost intensity and really lost definition there. But this outflow boundary is really what's causing most of the concern here. But the storm itself, there is still this severe thunderstorm warning for about another 15 minutes here. But there's nothing terribly concerning out of this storm. The main feature is just going to be the heavy rain and the gusty winds. But the strongest winds will be on the outflow boundary. The winds in the storm itself have weakened quite a bit. I don't think we're seeing any hail or anything here as well. If we zoom in just a little bit here, of course, in Midlothian, here's Ward, here's the strongest part of that storm. And there's still some, like you see here, these little hail indicators. So we are still seeing some hail out of the storm. I don't think it's going to, or lightning rather, excuse me. We see the little lightning indicator here, and we see another lightning indicator here just over the logo here. And again, that's kind of a reminder, you don't have to be in the strongest part of the storm to get lightning strikes. That's why you want to go inside when that storm gets close. And just, give it some breathing room, give it time to pass through. Venus here, the storm going to continue to move on that direction, moving towards Mountain Peak. And for all of the folks in Waxahachie that are watching this, there is outflow moving through Waxahachie now. Now, let me make clear, if you get the outflow boundary, that does not mean the storm is moving your way. Let's put this back into motion here, because the storm itself is moving this way. Okay, it's moving to the south, a little bit to the southwest. The outflow boundary here is moving more kind of southeast. So it's moving to the south, kind of to the southeast a little bit, not the same direction as the storm. Okay, so if you're getting the outflow boundary, that does not mean that you are going to get the storm. Two different features here, okay? Now, this outflow boundary could very well spark new storms. It hasn't up to this point, not in this area yet, but it could spark new storms. But the existing storm that prompted the warning, it does not mean that if you're getting the winds from this outflow boundary that you do have the storm moving your way. Now, you're still going to hear some thunder from this storm. You're still probably going to see it. You may see some lightning, those kind of things. You're a spectator at this point in Waxahachie and Red Oak and those areas. Red Oak may be getting a little bit of light rain, but really from Sardis on to the east and south, you're not really seeing anything affecting you at this point. So you're just watching this thing for now. And there was a little bit of a light shower that popped up east of Ferris. That hasn't really amounted to anything at this point. That has continued to weaken and fall apart. But as the storm continues, and we should probably be getting an update here pretty quickly. So the heaviest part of this is moving. It's moving at a decent clip. The warning said this one's moving about 20 miles per hour. I think it was moving faster than that. Over Dallas, this thing was pretty much stationary, but it's continued to move off to the southeast as it has progressed. It has moved at a pretty decent clip, which is good because that will keep that will actually keep the flood threat relatively low with this storm. So the Mountain Peak area, you're pretty much probably going to be next in line for some of the heavier activity from this storm. And this little red area has kind of bobbed a little bit back and forth. It's just not very organized. It's kind of just, fumbling its way on to the south. So that's going to continue to move on. And areas too, if we take a look, I know that there's a few folks from the 75154 area here from Ferris on over to Red Oak. Light rain right now for Ovilla, possibly into Red Oak, Oakleaf, that area. So light rain there, not really seeing anything too intimidating there. Hopefully, that's my phone. I hope that's not. The microphone of all things is actually on the table. So hopefully the buzzing from the phone doesn't cause that. And that's actually a buzz from the Cash App, so I appreciate the support that's coming in there. Those links, of course, are in the description. So I definitely appreciate the support there. And that was from, I want to go ahead and mention that was from Stephen. So, Stephen, thank you so much for sending a little bit of money over the Cash App. That is always appreciated. I'm sure my family appreciates it when I fly into the house frantically running in here to get a stream started, even if half of what's supposed to be on the stream is missing. So, we'll get that fixed. Don't worry about that. But the good news is the storm is weakening, and it's getting close to the warning boundary here. And again, it said 20 miles per hour was the speed, but I do think that it's moving at a faster clip than that, so that alleviates some of the flood concern, but that does mean that the storm will probably be moving in a little quicker than initially expected. So you see these little lightning indicators here, still plenty of lightning in this storm. Saw a little bit of the lightning as we were driving back into Waxahachie earlier this evening down 35. We could kind of see this from the distance. And we'll do a couple more checks here just to see what the wind speeds and the hail possibly looks like here. So really not seeing anything as far as strong winds in this area. So winds have really calmed down in the storm itself. And we'll take a look at the precipitation too. Yeah, I'm seeing a little bit of pink right here between Venus and Griffith there, right on the county line. So if there's any small hail at all, that might be confined to that area, but I really don't think we're getting a whole lot more in addition to that. So I think this is going to continue its kind of weakening trend. There is still the possibility that as that outflow boundary moves on, it could kick off additional storms. But I do think at this point, I think this one's pretty well still got a commanding kind of lead over any of the ingredients in the area that are fueling the storm, even though it does appear to be weakening, losing some of that intensity that it had initially. This is one of those summer storms, right? We see that it will swell up very quickly, get very, very strong, and then it very quickly kind of outdoes itself and weakens and goes on from there. And as this continues to move on towards the Alvarado area, there's also a couple of cells. I'll talk about this momentarily. But as this continues to move on, looks like this may not affect the Alvarado area much. It's kind of shrunken as well. And then the Maypearl area, really Griffith is kind of next in line with this, possibly the Auburn area too. Maypearl may miss most of this. Looks like it may progress on more towards the Grandview area, just down below the banner there. Let me move this up a little bit so that we can get a better view of this. So the outflow boundary is just about to move into the Maypearl area. Going to be moving down, continuing to move down 67 there, and then kind of down 35 west as well. So this is really kind of right on the Ellis County, Johnson County line there. That's where the heaviest activity is. Plenty of lightning showing up there as well. But in the grand scheme of things, this storm is not what it was before when it did actually prompt that severe thunderstorm warning. And here's another update. So just, again, kind of showing it losing some of that intensity, losing some of that organization here. That's going to continue on, and it's going to make a statement here as it continues to the south. But I think the heavy rain and the gusty winds and the frequent lightning are pretty much all that you have to be concerned about. This severe thunderstorm warning only lasts for about another 5 minutes here. So, I'm getting a message here that the severe thunderstorm warning has been expired here, and they may have just kind of taken that off a little bit early there. There was only about 5 minutes of that left, but the storm is not at severe limits right now, and it's going just outside of that box as well. So as this continues on to the south, it is going to lose some of that intensity. We're kind of looking at the Tri-County area here. So we have western Ellis County, eastern Johnson County, northern Hill County there as well. I want to thank my wife for grabbing me some water here because, again, I was pretty thirsty when I walked in the door, didn't have any time to grab anything. So I'm just going to grab that here. Have an awkward water moment. New little cell right around the Covington area there, Covington west of Itasca. So, we could see more development ahead of this, and my logo's in the way, but if we zoom out a little more, there's another cell outside of Corsicana. So if you put this into motion here, this is kind of, this area in Corsicana, you know what, that almost, okay, I'd be curious to know if this is actually a fire. That looks like that could be, because you see how it kind of blows up, but and it's expanding to the southwest, but it's not it's not moving anywhere. So that may not be a storm there. That may actually be a fire showing up on radar. But we do have a few of these little spotty showers showing up in Hill County from the Covington area down towards Hillsborough. And, of course, you see the storm coming on the scene. So the Tri-County area here, it will be moving that direction, but it's probably going to lose its intensity as it continues to go. So I think we can go ahead and wrap up coverage here. Of course, my bad luck is that usually when I do this, it immediately intensifies for no good reason at all. But I think we can do that. This is going to continue to bring heavy rain. We'll zoom in one more time to the area that we'll be expecting this. So here you have Auburn. There's Maypearl there, Grandview, Alvarado there, what is that, Antioch there, right along 35. So this is going to continue to move on to the southwest, and as it does, it'll continue to bring heavy rain, but the severe weather threat from this storm, at least at this time, appears to have alleviated. So I'm going to continue to monitor this, but for now, just be prepared for heavy rain, some frequent lightning, and some gusty winds to move through with this storm.